Alwa's Legacy is the sequel to the original that came out 3 years ago. Following the first footsteps, this too is a Metroidvania. Zoe wakes up on the shores with a little bit of memory loss. Slowly she starts piecing together an evil wizard is trying to bring chaos to the Quiet Land, and Zoe has the means to stop it. You're not going to get roped into the story, but there are some quirky characters worth remembering. Like any good Metroidvania, the world will open itself up to Zoe as she gains powers. Her full repertoire can be acquired in the first few hours of the game from her block or bubble she can jump on, or her fire spell that can burn wood. All of these spells can be upgraded to not only further exploration, but to gain some offensive advantages as well. For example, the block can be upgraded so that when you push it, spikes will jut out the back and damage enemies. This works well for shielded foes. Pro tip. So, instead of looking for new powers, most of the game is spent looking for upgradable orbs, which can thankfully be allocated infinitely to one's liking without any penalty. So kudos for that. But that's about where the praising stops, as there are 3 main issues with Alwa's Legacy that makes it hard to recommend. First, the game is a bit too open. While I love the ability to almost go anywhere from the start or within the first couple hours, the layout is confusing. It's very easy to get lost is my point. I wouldn't have had as much of a problem with it if you could warp around to previous areas. Technically you can do this, but in order to do so, a tier must be spent at a checkpoint, and they are rare items, especially in the early hours. So, get ready for a lot of guesswork and backtracking. It gets better eventually, but again, it makes those early hours a pain. Second, the combat is just unexciting. Enemies never pose much threat, and even if they did, Zoe's abilities are lacking any sort of pizzazz, even with the upgraded spells. Coinciding with that, the third major issue is the platforming. It's not as tight as one would hope, which makes the traversal and aforementioned backtracking even more painful. The bottom line is, Alwa's Legacy looks nice and has a good Metroidvania idea behind its gameplay. A wizard Metroidvania, or Wizardvania as I'm going to coin right here, sounds awesome. But this one in particular is an example of a game that was only half-baked. While not terrible by any stretch, it's a bit dull, which is perhaps an even worse critique. Did you like that video? If you did, please like, subscribe, and spread the good word of ReActionExaminer. If you want to read more of my stuff, you can find a plethora of my articles over at TheGamer and Game Rant. All of those links and more are in the show notes below. Thanks for watching!